I have brought with me something rather special. I thought about this, and Dick, you'll attest to this, we talked about on the phone, because we were all excited about this weekend and what was coming up. And I thought, it's great to bring back the old songs. Well, it's been done before. It's great to talk about what happened in the 60s, which was a phenomenal time, but of course, there are a lot of documentaries and a lot of TV specials on the 60s.
Yeah.
Great to bring back the old DJs. At least we think so as jocks.
Right, of course.
maybe the listener doesn't think so. We think, boy, it's great to bring us back. Isn't it wonderful?
Sure.
But the last thing I thought of was, how about if I brought back a bunch of old listeners? And you said, what are you talking about, old listeners?
Hey, Bob, what are you talking about, old listeners?
Funny you should ask.
We got them on tape?
I have saved
I guess that's
tapes.
the only way to keep them.
That's right.
Yeah.
I have saved tapes. If you listen to Keener, I'm talking about you now out there. If you have listened at any time to Keener 13 in the 60s, if you were 16 years old in 1965, you're now 30, let me think,
You figure it
39,
out.
38.
38,
My math is
okay.
terrific.
Yeah.
Then you maybe have a 16-year-old.
Maybe grandkids, too.
I may have you on tape, and I'm going to be playing some of these this morning.
All right.
The requests that you will hear on WCZY this morning will actually be WKNR requests from the 60s.
But they're probably just about the same voices, just different people.
In the meantime, the chiffon's coming up next. Hold on, stand by.
Wow! What a weekend with WKNR, Keener 13. Wow, wow, wow! Doolang, 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 doolang. He's so fine. Doolang, doolang, doolang. So fine, so fine, so fine, so fine, so fine, so fine, so fine.
Oh, yeah, the chiffons, and he's so... I always loved that group.
Bob, let me jump in for a second here. Oh, good. Ankles, we like that.
Record.
That's good. Okay, I made one at the beginning. Now that's ankles. That's two. Okay, but we have a lot more to go between now and 5 this afternoon. Bobby, unlike Keener 13 in the old days, what disc jockeys are taught nowadays, you jump in, and the first thing you give is the call letters. You come out of a record with Z95.5. See what I mean? Or WCZY, whatever station it happens to be. So you want to keep that in mind, because no longer does a record fade and you just say, well, that's a nice record, folks. Yeah, like that kind of thing, see? So you can play it either way you want to play
funny?
it.
We were very undisciplined in those days. A lot of the technical aspects of radio, and the listeners may or may not be aware of it, and you just pointed one thing out. For instance, it is definitely sacrilege today to play a jingle that says, more music, and then you go into 5 commercials.
That's right.
But we used to do that.
Right. Yeah,
and we didn't think anything of it. And I liked it that way.
Yeah, in the old days of radio, you came out of a record and you went into a commercial after you talked. Okay, out of the record,
At least
talk,
one.
commercial, then you talked again, then you played another commercial. You never put commercials back to back. And it started really in television, where they started piggybacking commercials, one on top of the other. You get 4 or 5 in a row. And radio never did it until, I think, in Detroit, 1967, with the Bill Drake format over in CK, where they started doing that with commercials. Bang, 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 bang. Then you came out with a jingle or whatever and played a record.
That's right.
Yeah.
But
And it continues to this day, by the way. So
I will say this. We still, people ask about, well, what do you perceive and see as the changes in radio? And I've not been in radio for a number of years, peripherally in it, because I produce radio and TV commercials and talk to a lot of radio people. But obviously there's a lot of changes. But I will say this. It's a lot harder than it was in our day. FM radio certainly is king, and FM radio back at WKNR's day accounted for, 1% of the audience at best. The pie was cut in many fewer pieces.
Right.
And number one radio station garnered 32% share of the audience in a market
which is unheard of now.
That's right. So it was a lot different. At the same time, though, we did have something that I think has come around. I think that the kind of rapport we had with the people and the kind of thing we had going with the listeners disappeared a little bit in the 70s for a period of time, where radio got into itself so much and got so involved in the in packaging, they forgot the essence of communicating with somebody and the rapport with the listener. So,
and unfortunately, to this day, there's still a lot of that in radio, with the exception of morning shows. Morning shows are where the communication takes place. The rest of the day, it's kind of more of a background medium, just music, a lot of music, and so on and so forth.
That's right.
But that's what's happened. Okay, what do you got now, Bob?
We are going to close your eyes and think back to about 19... Go ahead, close your eyes. And think back to...
I'll never open them again.
Think back to about 1965.
All right.
And somebody out there named Laura went to Fisher School in 1965.
All right. It's time for Keener, Pick and Play.
On the Woodward 38925 line, take the first call to come into us here.
You pick it and we play it on WKNR, Keener 13.
Boy, who's on here? Hi, hello, who's on the line here?
Bora.
Laura, is that, or Bora?
Bora.
Bora sounds like something you clean floors with. No, how do you spell that?
Laura.
Oh, Laura. Hi, Laura. You sound like you got a cold.
Yeah, I do.
You do? Because you're all stuffed up at the doors there. Hi, Laura. What's happening today?
Nothing.
Not much, huh? What school do you go to?
Fisher.
Fisher. And what song would you like to hear the most on Keener 13?
I hear a symphony.
I Hear a Symphony by the Great Supremes. Okay.
No sooner said than done.
You've given me a true love, and every day I thank don't let this moment here keep standing close to me. Ooh, it was so close to me, baby, 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 baby. I hear a symphony, a tender melody.
WCZY remembers, and of course the Supremes. See, I got it in that time.
Yeah, okay.
Are you proud of me?
Yeah, I really am, Bob. Yeah, we go for Z95.5, but that's okay. Either way, as I said, is okay. Listen, we just had a young man call, and he said, do you play oldies? I said, do we play oldies today? He said, good. Could you play Cruel, Cruel Summer by Bananarama?
You know, it makes you feel terrible when somebody talks about an oldie and they talk about 1979 or 1982.
Hey, how about 1986? Yeah, I get some of that. We have a lady on the phone here. It's something interesting, I think, to say. Let's hope so anyway. Good morning.
Good morning.
Hi there.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi.
I won 13 quarters and 13 nickels from Robin Seymour and Maximilian the Mechanical Money Monster.
We were big spenders back then, weren't we?
Are you serious? It was 13
Do you know?
quarters?
Well, everything was 13. Of
It
course,
was
we were.
13 quarters and 13 nickels.
How things have changed.
Well, you know, people got excited about that, though. If
Yeah.
people lost and won a Keener ballpoint pen,
I was
mean, that was
excited. I was
screams.
only 13.
You were 13.
13, huh? Well, we could figure this one out quick.
Everything was 13.
Yeah, sure was, yeah. Hi, what's your name?
Linda Schultz.
Hi,
Linda,
Linda
I think the
Schultz.
number one question is, did you ever get your money?
Yes, I did. I got a check.
Well, what do you know?
How about that?
You didn't have to come down to the station and pick it up? We often did that. We brought people down to the station to pick it up, and then when the people arrived at the station, the mics were on, and they didn't know it, and we'd get them saying these really ridiculous things and put it on the air.
Oh, is that right?
We were
Okay.
terrible with the people.
No, they mailed me my check.
They did for $3.25, huh?
Yes.
Hey, what a thrill. All right. Well, thank you for calling, Linda.
You're welcome.
You have a nice day.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Ooh, open wide, here comes the choo-choo train. What do you mean you're not eating until we discuss Mother's Day? Well, of course I love
The Animals, Saturday, May 14th, for Kids' Sake Day at the Detroit Zoo. They'll have a roaring good time.
Free tickets are available at Little Caesars, JCPenney, and True Value Hardware.
Hello. This is Dick Burton on the air every morning on Keener from 5 until 9. Goodbye.
Fly the non-stop sound of Keener 13, 9 to noontime daily on the Ted Clark Show. Right, Stella?
You said it!
Hi there, this is Jerry Goodwin, noon to 3 daily on WKNR, the best thing that ever happened to the Bob Green Show.
Let's discuss that later in the Keener Commissary, okay, Jer? The Bob Green Show, 3 to 7 p.m. with all the Keener hits, only to be continued on the
Scott Regan Show.
With much more music.
Squeak! Hello there, it's me, Rodney the Wonder Rodent. Reminding you to set your watch. It's 10 to 1 now.
Hello, everybody. Jim Jeffries all night long on WKNR.
And Paul Cannon, Saturdays on Keener 13 with non-stop music.
That's our middle name. WKNR. Music. Keener 13.
Ah, those guys. All right. 1964, this was Dionne Warwick. I guess it still is.
Cardinal Sin, Bob. I want to take that back so Bob can do that again.
Hey, no You want to do that again?
We do that a lot here. When we talk over, we just rewind it and do it again, Bob.
The memory goes.
Yeah, because otherwise the image is blown. You know.
Thank God we're on tape, boy, and no one will ever hear it.
That's for sure. Okay, so Ankles
Shall
will
we
just
do it one
let her
more
go,
time?
and Bob will hit the cue. this
Dionne
time.
Warwick and the big hit called Walk On By. Something like that.
You see
see.
walking down
He had a stutter to hit it.
Each time we meet, walk on by.
Stop, now you really gotta go, so walk on by. Stop, stop, baby, leave you never see the tears and cry. Stop, now you really gotta go, so walk on by. Stop, baby, leave you never see the tears and cry.
Z95 remembers one of the oldies but goodies. From
0.5, Bob. 0.5. Z95.5.
Well, on my radio,
hopefully by 10:30,
I have an old radio,
we'll get this thing
and
down.
it only has the 95 and the 90 whatever on it.
I see. So they don't have the 0.5 on it? I'm sorry.
Picky.
Excuse me, Bob. I'm sorry.
Disgusting.
Here. Format. What, you just like in the old days, huh?
All right. Well, anyway, that was Dionne Warwick, who always was one of my favorites, I must admit. You know,
and hopefully one of yours, folks.
I certainly hope so.
All right.
All right. You know, we were talking about bringing back some of the listeners. Really, some of them I remember. There's a young gal who probably isn't young anymore, but would like to think young. Danielle David. Danielle David used to come to the radio station. She lived in Dearborn, near our station.
Yeah.
Help us out with station promos and things. She would come in and bring some of her friends, and they do shouts and yays and boos and whatever we wanted them to do. And we invited Danielle, along with many, many other people from junior high schools and high schools in 1960. Wow, 6, I think. I hope that I got the right date on this. At that time, of course, the Beatles were extremely strong, and anything that dealt with the Beatles was very important. Well, everybody was getting in on the bandwagon, and George Harrison's sister, Louise Harrison Caldwell, was going around the country, and she went to 5 markets to produce a record talking about the Beatles and whatever, and the inside scoop, as it were. We had an on-the-air live press conference with Louise Harrison Caldwell. And we invited, along with Danielle, we invited several other students to come. And I think there must have been about 35 students from various schools. And I thought I'd pick a little piece of this thing that we did. We've got 4 questions. Some of the questions were really funny, really maybe silly or whatever, but they were funny. And this is a little bit of it. And if you were at that press conference, or if you know anyone who was, you will hear their voices right now.
So if you're set,
Sure.
and everybody remember to speak up real well. Let's have the first question, and we'll get started on this right now.
Irma Bland-Clausen, hi. If Paul was just on vacation, why couldn't he come home for Ringo's wedding?
Well, he was too far. He was in Africa at the time. And,
Sorry.
the other boys didn't even know that Ringo was going to get married until the day before. He had just confided in Brian Epstein.
His wife, though, knew, right?
Oh, she knew, yeah.
All right. All right. Right back here.
Danielle David, Fortson High. Did he go on his trip alone?
Who, Paul? Yes. As far as I know. I don't know.
Are you trying to say something there? All right, here's another one right here.
Linda Starr, Riverside. When the Beatles first came out, well, did you like their singing at first?
The first time I ever heard them was in 1962, that first record, Love Me Do. And the very first time I heard it, you know, I thought, well, you know, it's really different.
Diane Duvall from Bloomfield Hills Junior High. I was just wondering if you know how Ringo feels about being married.
Well, I imagine he must feel pretty happy about it, otherwise he wouldn't have done it.
He's elated. What do you mean? Okay, and this is David Weisberg again.
Has Ringo ever got his appendix out?
Oh, yes, years ago. I think he was 5 years old.
After he got his appendix out, did he get his drums?
Any correlation there between...
Now, there's a young man who knew what he wanted.
Absolutely.
He is now CEO of a large corporation. Yeah. Right. That was only, you know, 4 or 5 of the questions. We had this hour-long special. And if you heard yourself, terrific. And of course, if you did, I don't want to tie up the lines at Z95.5, but a lot of people are calling in. And if you're going to call in sometime today, we'd love to do it.
All right, fine. In the meantime, this is Bobby Green's with us this morning.
WKNR, Keener 13.
Hold it. Listen.
Z95 remembers.
0.5.
Oh, yeah, I'll tell you what. I'll do the Z95.
remembers, but not Bob.
That's right. At my age, what do you want?
We got a couple of folks on the phone here, Bob. Good morning.
Hi, this is Mary Ann.
Hi, Mary Ann.
I'm an official Bob Green fan club member.
Bless your ever-loving heart.
Remember that?
Well, as a matter of fact, I do. We had cards, I remember, printed up. I went downtown to where they keep the traffic lights, and I posed next to a green light.
Right. Wearing a sweatshirt that says, I'm Keener with Keener.
I'm Keener with Keener.
Right?
T-shirts.
And my little pledge on here says, I will do my best to help make all Detroit turn green at 7 p.m.
Bobby Green.
It is great to hear from you.
Oh, thank you. Nice to hear you.
Tell me in a sentence what you've been doing the last 24 years.
Thank you, Mary Ann. See you later. Bye-bye.